Got some really interesting intel here.
Hostile control point identified.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tom Clancy's The Division 2 Public Beta. My name is Ty Richardson, and I find this game to be boring. This is probably as interesting as it gets for me right here, is seeing this NPC magically standing or sitting on air. And he seems very fascinated by his book, too. That's, Anyways, bugs aside, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, it's another one. That's all you need to know. It's another online shooter, it's another military shooter, it's another live service.
Hello there, Agent.
And it's another open world with shit to do in it. That's really all there is. I played this game for about 2 hours, and I could not bring myself to care about anything. There's just nothing here, and the worst part is that every time this game threw something at me, I felt like I had already experienced it before. I was like, oh, it's an open world sandbox game. Okay, well, I've done that in Horizon Zero Dawn, Marvel's Spider-Man, God of War. Alright, so genre aside, it's a military shooter. Great. I've played Splinter Cell. Well, maybe Splinter Cell is not exactly a military shooter, but I've played Call of Duty, I've played Battlefield. I know how that's like. Oh, but it's set in Washington, D.C. I've played that game before, too, believe it or not. It was 11 years ago, and it was called Fallout 3. Desolate Washington, D.C. is nothing new, and the more that we keep seeing, like, historical monuments in their ruined, destroyed form, it's really desensitizing on the shock value of it all, on the tense nature, if you get what I'm saying. And anytime I see a game doing something like that, I'm just like, is there nothing else that is interesting for this game to where you have to be like, oh, the government has collapsed and the White House is now in ruins? Like, is that really as interesting as it gets? And unfortunately for Tom Clancy's The Division 2, it is. That's as interesting as this game gets. Everything else feels very cookie cutter. Like, somebody got approved to meet with executives for pitching a game, and they put no thought into it and just winged it. And they just came out with a pitch on the spot. I'm not saying that the developers are lazy. I'm sure a lot of people worked really hard on this game, but the way that everything is constructed feels lazy. In that it feels like everything has just been done and there's no way that this game is trying to deviate from itself. I mean, I guess the bullet sponge enemies, I guess that has the Division going for itself, but I could not find a way to keep myself engaged with this thing. It's just very, very generic. It's generic in gameplay. It's like here, I'm just hopping from cover to cover, and there's nothing interesting. Nothing interesting at all. And, yep, here's that cinematic shot of the White House with ash all on the front and turned into a settlement. That's another thing too, is this game gets more predictable as it goes, and when it introduced settlements to me, it was kind of just like, okay, we're doing this too. We're doing the whole build a settlement and explore the world to upgrade it. I've done that before. I did that in Mad Max, and it was honestly more satisfying there than it was here. And then, of course, it's got some RPG stuff to it. You have a skill tree for your well, it's more or less of a skill tree, but you can upgrade gadgets, you can spend skill points to get perks and stuff. It's, like I said, it's very generic. I don't know how else to put it. And then on the map you have the collectibles of how you can get more skill points, you have the enemy control points. There's, like I said, there's nothing special here. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out more things to say for this, but there's really nothing here. I haven't played the first Division, so I can't tell you the differences there, and I'm sure some may discredit me for not playing Division 1, but there's a reason why I didn't, and it's because it looked generic. This confirmed my beliefs. Is the Division 2 is just so generic. It's another Tom Clancy game, it's another military shooter, it's another live service game, it's another open world adventure with RPG elements in it. It's so basic. And what's funny is that after I got done playing this, I had bought a game that I did not know was from Ubisoft until I booted it up, and I had way more fun with it than I did with this. You know what that game was called? Hungry Shark World. Does anyone here remember that game? Because I sure as hell don't. That game received almost no marketing whatsoever. I had not heard about this game until this past weekend. And the only reason I knew about it is because the game popped up on the PlayStation sale. And the fact that I had more fun with a game that I spent $5 on and has very few mechanics going on with it and is immensely fun to play, at least in my opinion. The fact that that game gave me more fun than this says something about live service games. And it's something I've been saying for years. They do not work. They do not work from a gameplay perspective. They do not work from a business perspective. It's just, let's shell out a half-baked game and we'll just include all the cool stuff later. It's what Jim Sterling's been saying for years. These $60 games are nothing more than starter packs. These live service games will want you to jump on board just so you can spend more money. And it sucks, because I was honestly expecting the Division 2 to change my mind. Like, I was interested in this. Or at least I thought I would be. Because I heard the Division 1 got pretty good after its first year, and again, I never jumped on board because it looked so generic. So I thought, alright, I'll just jump on with Division 2, and again, here we are. Nothing but cookie cutter thrown in here. And that's another thing, too, is what I said earlier. The Division 1, people started saying it was good after 1 year. 1 year of content. And the game finally got to a fully realized state. To me, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to wait a year for a game to get good when I spent $60 on that day. I'm not waiting another year for the game to finally get good. I'm out when I'm out. And very few times am I ever going to jump back in. Especially when I have other games to play, and the market's already overcrowded with this stuff. It's already overcrowded with the live service, online shooter, open world stuff. And the last game that I played that was like this was Fallout 76, and we all know the story with that. So, if you are interested in playing the Division 2 and you enjoyed Division 1, you're probably going to like this game. As for me, I'd rather go out and be a shark. To me, being a shark is more fun than military man, going commando, reloading twice, and shooting shooting dudes who look like they couldn't find a bank to rob. So they just settled for the next building available. It's sad. It's sad.